Each Souls game comes with a selection of amazing NPCs. They usually meet a similar end, but their tragic and unique stories reinforce these amazing settings. We have a sociopath rat who hates humanity, a shady lettucesmith who met a well-deserved end, a recycling bin, and a bush. Grab a snack and enjoy the journey as I walk you through the tragic but heroic stories of some of the greatest NPCs in the game industry. This is not a ranking, and their skills in battle are irrelevant. Anyways, enough with the intro, let's begin.
Well, well, well. I should have known, you scheming little thief. The gods demand vengeance! Vengeance!
Somehow, the greatest Souls NPC is an impersonator who pushes people off cliffs for a living. Patches doesn't have a detailed story in Elden Ring. He shows up a couple times to trick you, and he briefly shows up during the Radahn festival. If you have never played Dark Souls before, you probably don't know or care about this random guy. In Dark Souls, Patches is a complex hero who managed to outlive countless demigods and legendary warriors. His journey starts shortly after the gods exile Nameless King. Patches was a simple criminal who hunted clerics as a hobby. He would trap adventurers and loot their remains. And this is exactly how he met the Chosen Undead. He gave Chosen Undead a chance. Put your eyes on the treasure below and end up in a ditch like all the greedy clerics, or focus on your mission and survive. Patches hated clerics for a reason. They loved pretending to be noble. They had the moral high ground. They were serving the gods of Honor Londo, and they were the protectors of the peace and Age of Fire. But this was a lie. Patches saw how selfish and corrupt Way of the White was. They would banish anyone with an undead curse. They sacrificed countless lives just to steal the right of kindling. They tricked and murdered their own clerics in order to secure the artifact. In the end, their goal was to sacrifice even more humanity through bonfires and strengthen the first flame. But with all the humanities lost forever, they would eventually destroy all the living. I have no doubt Patches didn't care at all about whatever evil clerics were scheming. Instead, he probably had a selfish motivation. Maybe he was avenging an old victim, maybe he just wanted to annoy the Way of White, or I don't know, maybe he was just a smart businessman making money with the stuff he looted from clerics. Regardless of his motivation, he hunted evil clerics and indirectly saved many innocent lives from the church. His never-ending hatred fueled his existence. As long as greed and Age of Fire existed, Patches could never go hollow. His duty continued for ages. In Dark Souls 3, he was still the same trickster, but he started showing signs of humanity. Way of the White no longer had the influence they possessed during the first and the second Age of Fire, but Cathedral of the Deep was even worse than the previous one. With Aldrich growing more and more powerful each day, Cathedral was about to drown the world in darkness. Of course, it was the Ashen One who eventually stopped the cathedral, but Patches was still present during the event. He wasn't a powerful warrior, he could never face Aldrich or even a cathedral knight, but he was slowing the cathedral in his own way. Patches stole Sigmayr's armor and disguised himself as Onion Knight. He saved Grey Rat from being a late-night snack for Aldrich. Patches was already aware of the methods Aldrich was using to grow more and more powerful. Devourer of the Gods was feeding on the helpless villagers living around the cathedral. There's no information about how many people Patches accidentally saved from the cathedral, and to be honest with you, he probably never saved anyone other than Grey Rat. But it is safe to assume this wasn't the first time Patches put himself in danger to protect someone else. Even after he recovered his memory in Ring City, he continued helping others in his own way. If he fell in battle while fighting a Judicator, his soul would be enslaved for eternity, but he still chose not to abandon Ashen One in this fight. Patches in Dark Souls Trilogy is a noble trickster. He fought against the evil church. He hid his identity when he was helping the others. In the end, no one knows what pushed him into this life, but he spent countless ages hunting villains who only lived for themselves. Patches is a morally grey character. One day he hunts evil clerics and risks his own life to save the weak. Next he is tricking and robbing innocent adventurers. Figuring his motivations isn't possible, but it is safe to say Patches is one of the greatest side characters in the Souls franchise. We never truly see Havel in his full glory, we never even see his hollowed version or his remains, but the strength Havel possessed is no joke. His story starts in the early days of the earth, during the age of everlasting dragons. He is just one of many lords who was blindly following Gwyn. After Gwyn obtained a powerful lord soul, he blessed his closest followers with a fraction of the power he had obtained. With godlike powers and many loyal, powerful followers, Gwyn declared war on dragons. Havel wasn't as lucky as the great knights of Gwyn. He wasn't important enough in Gwyn's eyes yet. Naturally, he wasn't blessed by the Lord Soul, but he still blindly followed Gwyn to the surface. Without Gwyn's assistance, he couldn't conjure lightning bolts powerful enough to slay dragons. Unlike great dragon slayers Ornstein and Nameless King, he had to rely purely on his physical powers. Havel's immense willpower shined in the battle against dragons. He had slain many dragons and harvested their body parts to grow stronger. While great knights were protected under the golden rays of the god of sunlight, Havel carved stone scales of dragons to craft himself a great shield. He claimed a mighty dragon's tooth as his weapon. Without any divine assistance, he turned himself into an untouchable bulwark. His great shield protected him from the blazing dragon flames. His devastating hammer crumbled the scales of any dragon who dared to stand in his way. It seemed like his legendary equipment was doing all the job, but Havel was the only warrior strong enough to wear dragon parts without any assistance. His heroic deeds in war finally caught the attention of Gwyn. Havel became the archbishop and he was given a house of his own name. Powerful warriors all across Lordran soon joined his ranks. As an ordinary lord without any divine blessing, he rose to one of the highest ranks in the City of Gods. He built himself an army of Havel knights who were loyal to him as much as a silver knight is loyal to the divine family. No one else was strong enough to wear dragon scales. As a solution, Havel crafted special rings for his followers to help them make use of these unbreakable equipment. With an army stronger than any other, Havel was an unstoppable force, but soon all the power he earned was going to crumble before him. After the Great War, Havel wasn't the only one who received a house and a prestigious title. Seed the Traitor, a lovely, worthless dragon, was the Duke of the Archives now. For the first time ever, Havel stopped blindly following the god of sunlight. He knew he could never trust the dragon. While the entire kingdom was celebrating the Age of Fire, Havel prepared for the downfall Seed the Scaleless was going to bring. He despised sorcery, but he knew he could never face Seed. But lucky for Havel, his fate granted him two new miracles. Great Magic Barrier could now allow Havel and his legion to withstand any sorcery Seed would dare to cast. But the downfall Havel expected never came from Seed the Scaleless. The traitor dragon locked himself in his archives, and the lack of answers eventually pushed him into madness. Seed wasn't the danger Havel had foreseen. Betrayal came from the former god of war Nameless King. Rumors said under the new ruler, Anolondo was preparing to strike an alliance with the dragons. It is now obvious Nameless King could save Lordran from a meaningless existence if he could put lords, pygmies and dragons under the same banner. But Havel and the demigods of the divine family could never accept such treachery. No one knows what happened to Havel after this point, but his secret chambers in Anolondo had weapons crafted to slay gods. He may have attempted a coup and died at the hands of Nameless King, or he may have abandoned his armor like Ornstein to join Nameless King in his journey. No matter what happened to him in the end, Havel was an ordinary lord without any powers. His unbreakable will and immense strength carried him through the battle of everlasting dragons. With his inhumane strength, he slain countless dragons and became one of the most feared warriors of his age. When it comes to power, Havel has no match in the entirety of Souls franchise. In a land where gods hide in fear, kings descend into madness, heroes turn into monsters, real victim is always humanity. Struggles of unnamed heroes and their sacrifices are erased without ever seeing light of day. Gwyn's undead curse destroyed many civilizations, tricked and claimed many victims, but descendants of the Dark Soul never gave up. Lucatiel is one of many victims who has been dragged into this nightmarish land of Lordran. Among all the chosen heroes and legendary warriors, Lucatiel's humble story finds a unique spot. She is just a regular person fighting for herself. Growing up in a poor, nameless household, the only thing that kept her alive was her skills in battle. But Lucatiel never chased power. She never tried to take over and destroy the powerful lords who forced her into this miserable life. While every single pygmy fought for the new Age of Fire, Lucatiel wasn't interested in the prophecy of the chosen undead. Then again, if she was just an ordinary knight living a humble life, why was she in Drangleic in the first place? Why was she chasing powerful enemies to claim their souls? Once Lucatiel showed the signs of the undead curse for the first time, it was over for her. She could no longer stay in her homeland. Just like all the unfortunate souls all across the land, she was exiled from her kingdom. No one knew how to cure the undead curse, but the rumor said at the heart of Drangleic resides a power strong enough to cure the disease. It was all coming together. This is where Lucatiel's brother must have gone to. She traveled to Drangleic hoping she could find her missing brother and cure the undead curse. Lucatiel's adventure is special. This is not a heroic story about a chosen undead conquering an unknown land. Lucatiel is a symbol for all the unknown heroes who disappeared without a trace. Throughout her journey, Lucatiel's dialogue shows how terrified and clueless she is. She has no destination, her goal doesn't have a path. She is so alien to this nightmarish land that she doesn't even know what a human effigy is. She travels across the land without ever slowing down her curse. She only survives and delays her curse because she regains a bit of her humanity anytime she helps bearer of the curse in their journey. As the search continues, she loses her memories one by one. She falls in battle countless times and she shows that she doesn't even want glory. She just wants to survive and be remembered. Her story ends without a clear evidence of what happened. There are two theories that lead to a different tragedy. One of them says she became hollow at the gates of Aldia's keep right before she finally reunited with her brother. Others says when she finally found her brother, it was already too late, as Lucatiel was already consumed by the curse. Lucatiel fell and resurrected before Lucatiel countless times until the undead curse took over her body. She didn't have a happy ending. However, she was never forgotten. Bearer of the curse passed her legendary journey across generations. She became the monument of all the unknown heroes who fell in this cursed land. Ages passed and her story outlived Drangleic to become an inspiration for the Ashen One. Lucatiel was one of many victims destroyed by Gwyn's paranoia, but in the end she was never forgotten. Solaire of Astora is one of the most cherished characters for a reason. He is one of many victims crushed under Gwyn's ambition, but his resilience and connection to humanity makes him a rare character who managed to fulfill his destiny. Solaire is a religious fanatic who was brainwashed by many lies of the Way of the White. Just like almost all the other pygmies, Solaire also believed he was the chosen one. Solaire wasn't born into a noble family, he was just another insignificant pygmy struggling to survive just so he could serve the Lord another day. Without any guidance, he trained day and night, forged his own armor and sword, crafted his own talisman. His unbreakable fate blessed him with Gwyn's sunlight spear. As the chosen undead, it was his duty to protect Lordran. So, he eventually found himself in this curse-ridden kingdom. He was one of many pygmies searching the kiln of the first flame, but Solaire was different. As much as he wanted to be the one saving the world from darkness, his humanity inherited the noble side of the Dark Soul. As he traveled across Lordran, he helped countless adventurers in their journey. On top of his impossible mission, he saved others from powerful demons and corrupted dragons. Solaire saw more than just the plain lies of the Lord of Sunlight. He was one of the few remaining followers who never gave up on Nameless King. Gwyn was at the center of Solaire's fate, but he only wanted to follow a peaceful world created by the Nameless King. Solaire eventually reached the kiln of the first flame and defeated Gwyn, but his victory wasn't granted because of his fate. It was his humanity that carried him to the end. At his lowest, Solaire was saved by one of many warriors he helped in the past. His journey started because he was forced by fate. He had to save the Age of Fire at all costs, but in the end, without darkness within him, he could have never left Lost Isolate. Solaire is a tragic character who blindly followed the lies and the false prophecies of Gwyn. His loyalty to Nameless King and the Chosen Undead could push him to a better world, but in the end he was just another pawn who saved Gwyn's Age of Fire. Let's continue with an underrated character. Sieglinde is one of many skilled Onion knights from Katarina. Unlike all the other characters in Dark Souls 1, she is on a smaller personal journey. Her story is lost among all the heroic and tragic characters of her time. The tragedy of Siegmeyer and Sieglinde isn't an easy one to talk about. After all, there's almost no source backing up the events that took place. Sieglinde is the only child of a small, peaceful family. However, in Lordran, rarely any story has a happy ending. Life outside the City of Gods slowly dies day by day. Darksign claims humans all across the continent. Siegmeyer is one of many victims who was chosen by the Undead Curse. As a victim who had to follow the false prophecies, he left his home to save the Age of Fire. But this is where theories rise about his motivation. Some say he was aware of his wife's illness, some say he just traveled to Lordran to seek challenge. And the Onion Knight's self-sabotaging tragic story starts right here. Throughout his journey, he always seeks excuses to give up. It feels like he has already accepted his fate. But while he is in Lordran making up his way to City of Gods, Sieglinde loses her mother. With both of her parents gone, she decides she will carry her mother's final words no matter what it takes. This is how her heroic story starts. She will travel to Lordran and search for his father all across the kingdom. Unlike all the legendary sorcerers, warriors and knights, Sieglinde isn't a hollow, and she isn't forced to challenge the fears of the Undead Curse. As an ordinary knight, she only has one chance. Failure means she can never come back to life. She cannot claim souls of her enemies to strengthen herself, and whether she can use an Estus flask or not is a pure mystery. She travels across Lordran without ever losing a fight. At times, she requires the Chosen Undead's assistance, but the more Chosen Undead helps her, the more he pushes them further apart. Sieglinde eventually finds her father and confronts him about her mother's death. With the last bit of hope snapped within Siegmeyer, he goes hollow and attacks her daughter. The fight ends with Sieglinde standing as the sole survivor. She isn't a major character, she doesn't have any impact on the overall story. But as a simple human, she survives in Lordran against all odds. She is one of the rare side characters who achieves her goal and never goes hollow. Sieglinde is definitely a heroic character who deserves more attention. Let's do some honorable mentions before the last character. Tarkus was an unstoppable warrior, toying with demons and the legendary warriors of Lordran. If he hadn't lost his battle to gravity, he would have taken over the entire kingdom. Siegward is a skilled warrior, strong enough to destroy high-ranking demons all by himself. To this day, he has one of the greatest entrances to any boss fight. Lido might be the only Silver Knight strong enough to challenge legends such as Havel and Tarkus. Vaik could have been the new Elden Lord if he was as corrupt as the demigods of Leyndell. Alsana is the daughter of darkness, born to destroy the world, but she spends her life saving it from chaos. Elden Ring is a single title, so naturally side characters and their roles aren't as detailed as Dark Souls NPCs. At times, Logan's Head has more lore than some of the Elden Ring NPCs. So, what do we know about Blight? Just like Malekith, he is also a shadowbound beast, a demi-human creature with extreme physical powers. When Ranni was revealed to be an Empyrean capable of ascending to godhood, Blight was assigned with a mission to protect her. With Renala's approval, Blight joined the family at a young age and became Ranni's stepbrother. Raised by one of the strongest families in Lands Between, Blight grew up to be quite a skilled warrior. As a shadowbound beast, he was not only a personal guard to an Empyrean, but he was also there to make sure Ranni never left the service of the other gods. Ranni reveals that she will eliminate the demigods of Leyndell, and she will replace the Golden Order. Queen Marika's kingdom will crumble as she starts a new age guided by the stars. This is the point shadowbound beasts would slay their master in order to save the Erdtree. But despite his nature, Blight refuses to bow to the Two Fingers. He abandons his duty just to serve Ranni regardless of the consequences. After the Radahn festival, Blight travels to Nokron City in order to secure the finger-slaying blade. However, Iji traps him in an Ever jail just in case. Blight eventually escapes from his prison and rushes back to Ranni's Rise in order to save his master. On his way back, he is attacked by a group of Black Knife assassins. However, his keen senses make it impossible for an assassin to sneak up on him. He manages to slay skilled assassins against all odds. but as a shadow-bound beast, he can only deny his nature for so long. Despite his efforts, he eventually delves into madness. Blade isn't as skilled as Malekith, as he's thousands of years younger than the legendary Black Blade. However, he's still one of the strongest creatures in Lands Between. He can't face a demigod in battle, but his senses and reflexes allow him to respond to any aggressor with perfect precision. Blade is a noble character who rebelled against the gods just so he can protect Ranni. In the end, his story ended in a tragedy, but no one can deny his heroic sacrifice. Right, thank you for spending your precious time here. Like if you liked or dislike it, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.